Georgia Supreme Court has overturned a father's murder conviction for leaving his infant son to die in a hot car after they found the jury was shown evidence that was extremely and unfairly prejudicial. Justin Ross Harris, 41, was sentenced to life in prison for the death of his 22-month-old son, Cooper, who died in 2014 after being left in a hot car for 7 hours. But on Wednesday, Supreme Court justices agreed that prosecutors in his 2016 trial should not have told the jury about his conviction for sexting an underage high school girl. Prosecutors had highlighted Harris' frequent affairs and sex crimes showed he was unhappy in his marriage and intentionally killed his son to free himself. They presented extensive evidence of extramarital sexual activities that he engaged in, including exchanging sexually explicit messages and graphic photos with women and girls and meeting some of them for sex. While his conviction for murder was overturned, Harris' conviction related to sex crimes against a 16-year-old girl was upheld. Georgia Supreme Court justices argue Harris' extensive sexual activity reports shouldn't have been taken into the jury's consideration in connection with Cooper's death. Harris, who was sentenced to life without parole and 31 more years for more crimes, is eligible for a new trial on the murder and child cruelty charges against him, although his conviction for sex crimes with a minor remains. The 6-3 majority of justices believe the jury heard and saw an extensive amount of improperly admitted evidence. The majority argued prosecutors created a narrative for the jury to believe Harris intentionally left his son inside the car to die in the heat. Justices also argue prosecutors presented a substantial amount of evidence to lead the jury to answer a different and more legally problematic question: what kind of man is Harris? On the morning of June 18, 2014, Harris reportedly told police he forgot to drop his son off at daycare before driving to his job at Home Depot in Atlanta. Harris left Cooper strapped in the back seat of his vehicle for nearly 7 hours as the weather reached the high 80s. While prosecutors aimed to find Harris guilty of murder, defense attorneys said Harris adored Cooper and called his death an accident. Defense attorneys described him as a doting father and said the boy's death was a tragic accident. Justice Charlie Bethel wrote a partial dissent that was joined by Justice Sean LaGrua and Justice Verda Colvin. He said the state was entitled to introduce, in detail, evidence of the nature, scope, and extent of the truly sinister motive it ascribed to Harris. For that reason, Bethel wrote, the trial court did not abuse its discretion in allowing the challenged evidence.